Well, hey there, welcome to this session. This session really means a lot to me because Nils, who's presenting this session, was just so formative when I was setting up our church online at Crossway. And I don't know if you've ever started a project where you don't have all the answers. And Church Online was like that for me. There weren't very many people who were doing it around the world, but Nils was one of the first at Community Bible Church. And he shares a bit of his story in this session. But Nils was just so instrumental and such a great mentor for me. And, you know, when we started off the idea for this summit, one of the things I wanted to do was to give you, the viewer, lots of virtual mentors to be able to help you navigate this online church world. And I can't think of someone better, more experienced, with more wisdom in the online church area when it was just so new than Nils. So it's Nils, I just want to say thanks to you for all you have fed into my life, into my ministry. And God bless you. I know Nils now helps lots of different churches with their church online presence. And I just want to say God bless you, Nils, as you do that, as you serve the broader church family across the world. So without any further ado, let's see what Nils has got to say.
Hey, I'm Nils Smith, and I'm so honored to be here. I'm grateful for Steve giving me the invite. Steve has been a longtime friend, even though we've never met face to face. I consider him a friend, and on the other side of the world. And we were two of the early birds into this online church space almost a decade ago now, and it has been amazing to watch things develop, and obviously technology has changed a ton in the past decade. And I've got the privilege now to function as a consultant primarily in helping ministries maximize technology and social media to accomplish their goals. And online church consulting is one of the things that I've been doing more and more over the last couple of years as it's become more and more of a priority. And we're obviously in the middle of a season. I live in New York City, and we're in the middle of it right now. And quarantine, my church, Hillsong, New York, is figuring out online church, as we speak, as it wasn't something that was a priority prior to, but it is now a significant priority here for our church, and will be how we do church for the foreseeable future. And so I'm excited to talk to you about online church and a lot of the things that I've learned and some steps that I've taken. I want to get very practical in this session as well, and in this time. So I want to talk about integrating social media into your online church strategy. One of the things that I heard early on, as I was at a round table around online church, probably about 8 years ago, from my friend Mark Meyer from Granger Community Church, and he told me, or he just made a statement of, we consider everything we do online to be online church. And that caught my attention so much, because at that moment, at that time, I considered our online worship services to be our online church, and that was it. And I think even in our physical church buildings, we too often just say church is this 1 hour a week gathering, and that's church. And at the end of the day, that's not church. Church is community. Church is people coming together and growing in community closer to Christ together. And that's our goal. As we build an online church, it's to help people grow and connect with God and connect with each other. And if it's just to get people to watch a video, you have a broadcast ministry. And I work with a lot of broadcast ministries, and broadcast ministry is a great thing, but it's not church. Church is about community. And I believe that in what I've learned in doing online church for so long, that the most powerful tool that we have today to build an online church, and I think what has really made church online possible, is social media. Yeah, I remember meeting with Bobby Greenwald, who I consider the godfather of online church, and he shares his story of how Church Online began, because he ran a wrestling website with millions of people that would build community around wrestling online. And he said, well, if we can build a community around wrestling along, can we not build a community around Jesus online? And it was natural. So they took their church and took it online, and they didn't have all the answers when they figured it out. And the reality is I've been doing this for 10 years. I don't have all the answers to give you. And when I do have answers, things change. Technology changes or new understandings change. So you got to figure this out. And it's kind of one of those things like you've got to build the plane while it's in the air. And that's the reality of today and the speed at which things are going today. But there are opportunities at our fingertips like that have never existed before. I remember when we started with onlinechurch.com was the ministry I led out of Community Bible Church, and we leaned into this new platform called Facebook back then, and Facebook had like 500 million users. It was huge. Well, it's come a long way since then. We almost 3 billion active users on Facebook. And then there was this interesting, cool new platform called Instagram that was for teenagers. And that's now over 1 billion users itself. And Twitter and TikTok and, Twitch. And there's so many things out there. And social media is so vast. And it has developed over the years and it's changed over the years. And when people ask me about where I was most successful with online church, what I would say is I chose the right platform early, and I chose Facebook. I decided that Facebook was going to be the platform that we primarily focused on to build church. Now, at that time, there was no Facebook Live. There was no, I don't think they'd even started Facebook groups yet. So we had a Facebook page, and it was actually new because before if you remember, people would just create Facebook profiles for everything, just like MySpace. So we treated Facebook like MySpace, but then there were pages. So organizations could have a page and you created followers or people would like your page. And we see that still today. And so I leaned in, I created an online church Facebook page. We were actually, to tell you a quick story, we were CBC Online, Community Bible Church Online, is what we called ourselves. We were a multi-site church, so it was natural for us to call it CBC Online. But what we kept finding is that CBC Online, to many people, meant Canadian Broadcasting Channel. And so there was a lot of brand confusion. And so then we had the opportunity to acquire onlinechurch.com and rebrand it to that. But it was funny to see so many people who thought they were going to on the Canadian Broadcasting Channel, and we're like, wait, the Canadian Broadcasting Channel has church on it? And we had several people come to Christ because they were searching for the Canadian Broadcasting Channel and found us instead. But we were very intentional about moving people from our online church worship experience into our Facebook page, which is where we prioritized community. And what we ended up actually finding is that our Facebook page became our place to reach people, and then we'd move them to our online worship experience, and then we'd begin to move them to Facebook groups, which began to build community. And my friend Nona Jones, who many of you probably are aware of, often talks about the Facebook ecosystem with two key platforms. And I think we figured this out accidentally, but Nona describes it so well of your Facebook page is your front porch, and your Facebook groups are your community. And what we leaned into 10 years ago today is even more relevant. And so as you think about social media, I still think Facebook is king. While there's a lot of popularity on Instagram, you're talking over 2.5 billion versus 1 billion. And there's so much more functionality on Facebook. So I don't think it's an either or. I think it's a both and situation. But really thinking about where are you reaching people, engaging people, and then where are you moving people for them to live together in community. And because Facebook's algorithm limits Facebook pages so much from a reach standpoint, Facebook groups are the best way to really build community and to move people and to interact with people in social media. So a few tips though, and then we'll get real practical, is that there you've got to choose where you're going to be. And so when I first started, and what the world of social media was 10 years ago, is I created a CBC Online MySpace account. I created a CBC Online Twitter account. I created a CBC Online Instagram account and a Facebook page. And, there was the one that Twitter bot that disappeared quickly, and I'm blanking on it right now, that had the short looping videos that's basically like TikTok now. But there's been so many. I created a CBC Online Snapchat account. And so there's so many different social networks out there. And now what we've really seen is that social media has really found niches where I feel like Facebook and Instagram are the core social networks, and then you have Twitter for news, and then you have Bleacher Report for sports, and then you have Nextdoor for neighborhood communities, and you have LinkedIn for your business and professional connections. And so I think at the core of social media, though, and this is why I think Facebook owns social media, is Facebook and Instagram. That's where people are doing life person to person, primarily on social media. And then the others like I would say TikTok and YouTube are about video consumption and happen to have a social engagement opportunity with it. And so when I think about where I would prioritize my time on social media, it would be on Facebook and Instagram to really look at how can you build healthy community on Facebook and Instagram. Now, the reality of those two platforms alone is it's not just Facebook and Instagram, it's your Facebook page. It's your Facebook group or groups. It's Messenger. And then it's posting videos, it's posting pictures, it's posting text-based posts, it's posting stories. There's so much there. And then you shift over to Instagram, which was this simple mobile-only platform that you could just post a picture or a 60-second video. Well, now you can post stories, you can go live, you can have IGTV. The DMs are where so much personal engagement is happening. It's a lot to keep up with. And so you've got to figure out where are you going to focus, and you can't be everywhere. And so lean in, and maybe it's just Facebook for you, and maybe it's just a Facebook group for your ministry. That's where we're going to lean in, and we're not going to mess with anything else right now. We're going to just do a Facebook group. I think that's probably the best place to start, and then you can expand from there. And maybe you go Facebook group to a Facebook group and a Facebook page, or maybe you go Facebook group to just an Instagram account. But start small. I would go ahead and acquire the handles, and so have a page and an Instagram account, even if you're not using it yet, to lean into it in the future. But lean in. And lean into these platforms to build community. Don't use these as a microphone. What I saw so many churches doing 10 years ago when I started, and I still see today, is they use social media for marketing purposes of I want you to sign up here so that you to learn and follow us and pay attention to our social media accounts and then link to our Church Online platform. So follow us here, and then we're just going to say go to Church Online, go to Church Online, go to Church Online. But the reality is this is the place to build community, and you should share about your Church Online services, but you should also on your Church Online services share about your Facebook page, your Facebook group, and where you build community there. And the shift that I made, the decision that I made 10 years ago, is that I was going to do ministry first on social media, and I was going to make that our primary online church platform, and then we would just go gather and worship once a week on our worship platform. But we were going to do community 24/7 on our Facebook page, and so we would post quite a bit, and we post ministry things with no link, with no call to action. It was just a Bible verse. Now, this was early days before even like image posts were possible, and we would just post a quote from the sermon, or we post a worship lyric. And what we found is that people liked it a lot, people commented on it a lot, and people shared it a whole lot. And so our page at that time grew to over 800,000 organically because we did ministry first there. And we posted content that people wanted to share, and that when they liked it in the Facebook's algorithm, Facebook said, man, this is valuable. People seem to really like this. They showed it to more people. And so we saw an explosion because we focused on social media as a ministry platform first and not as a marketing tool. And I think that's what I hope you take out of this more than anything else is how do we make social media our church community platform and not just a marketing tool to get them to our worship services. Now, it can be that, but it's a secondary or even a third purpose for how you should be using social media to build your online church community. When it comes to social media, a couple just quick tips, and then I want to give you a formula for social media content that I've used over the years and continue to find success with the clients and the ministries that I work with and with the accounts that I manage myself. And so the first thing that I want you to do is don't be a microphone. Just focus on being a pastor, being a ministry leader, and building community on social media. The second is prioritize relationships over everything. And so we obsess over content, and we should prioritize content, but we should obsess over relationships. We should obsess over making sure we're responding to comments and messages as much as possible, and empowering volunteers to do that, and building community and responding to those DMs as people send those things to us. And it hurts me when I get a new client, I look at their accounts and they've got 10,000 unread messages in their DMs, and we scroll through them and they're people that are desperate and asking questions and they were just ignored. Prioritize relationships over everything. And that's what social media is about. And then lean into video. Lean into video as much as possible. Lean into video with your content. Lean into video. One of the best tools that didn't exist when I started is video conferencing has come so far. Facebook is at this time, and it might be open now, they're working on, Facebook Rooms, I think it's called, but video conferencing for up to 50 people for free. And so Zoom costs money and it creates some complications, but the more you can get face-to-face with people, the better. And so video with video conferencing is such a powerful tool that's now available and accessible. With internet speeds being stronger now, you can do so much there. One of the things that we did at CBC with Online Church that was very successful, and this is even like 5 years ago, is I set up a Zoom line, and then I had an open Zoom line, and then I set up a domain, and I think it was cbctalkitover.com. And so you would just, at the end of the service, we'd say, if you want to talk with somebody after the service, just go to cbctalkitover.com. And we've got some pastors there, and we're there to talk. And, typically every service, we'd have a dozen or so people that would come in and we'd talk to them. We'd have a little kind of after church, and that became kind of our lobby or our follow-up room. And it was such a neat place to meet face to face and go from a little avatar on a screen or a little username to a face and having that personal of interaction. And there's things we miss in online church and things that we can't do, and we're in a time where we can't handshake and hug anyway. But I think we want to make this as personal as possible for people, and not just try to we get obsessed with scale, and I work with a lot of large ministries that have to figure out how do we do ministry at scale. But even when you're doing ministry at scale, you've got to prioritize relationships. You've got to prioritize those one-to-one relationships, those 1-to-3 relationships. And so how are you really effectively building community? And I think video conferencing is the most powerful tool today that we can be using and leaning into. So let me get into the content strategy, though, that I think as you get into your social media content development and you use those principles, but as you build your content, I want to give you kind of these 5 parts, and I want you to look at your current content and then start thinking about your future content. But the first is this: at least 50% of your content, so a minimum of 50% of your content, should be inspirational in nature. Now, this is a video clip of your sermon. This is a quote from the sermon. This is a worship song that you post. This has no call to action. This is just something that's going to minister to somebody when they see it in their newsfeed. Something that they're probably going to like. Maybe they're going to love it, and they're probably going to share it. And so post things that are going to minister to somebody in some way, with no agenda, no call to action other than to minister to them directly. So a minimum of 50% of your content should be ministry, and that's it. A maximum of 25% of your content should be information. Now, this would have a call to action. This would be things like, join us now at Online Church. Make sure you sign up for a small group. We're doing this online marriage event. If you want to join that, that's information. And if you think about it, like when we go to church, we don't want to hear a bunch of announcements. Now, we need to be informed, and but we kind of say, look, we're going to have 2 minutes for announcements, and we segment that to make sure we're focused on that ministry experience. And we need to do that with social media. Is people need to know the information that our organization wants to put out there and share with people, but we don't want to just overdo it with information, because what will happen is you'll get downgraded in the algorithm, and Facebook and Instagram and any of the social media platforms will basically say your content isn't that engaging, so we're not going to show it to very many people. But when you're posting good inspirational content and then you post that important information, Facebook or Instagram are seeing that your content is good and people engage with it, so we're going to show this to more people. So that helps your marketing efforts, and your information that you're trying to get out there and create action to is going to get better results. Now, the last part. So if you have, say, 20% left over, these are the three parts that you need to make sure are incorporated into your strategy on a consistent basis. And these are conversation, celebration, and connection. So the first is conversation, and this could actually be even more significant. And you'll have to see how well you're able to build a community. But at the end of the day, this is social media. And we want to stir comments. We want to stir engagement and connection through social media. And in your Facebook group, it might be 50% of your content is conversation based. But this is essentially asking a question, asking good open-ended questions that people can easily answer. And so sometimes that might be a shallow question. And even as you start out, asking things like, "What city are you from? Where's the best pizza in the world? Coke or Pepsi?" Things like that are just easy to answer and can just be fun. We need to have fun at church. And so ask some easy to answer questions. And the others could be, what was the biggest point you took away from the sermon? Or what's your favorite worship song? And tie it more into the ministry that you're doing. It would always frustrate my pastor, Robert Emmett, when he'd be like, "Oh, ask him what their favorite point was for the sermon." And he's like, "How come only 12 people respond to that? But when you ask about the best tacos in San Antonio, we get 200 comments." And the reality is, it's easy to answer those simple questions, and it's more challenging, and you got to put a lot more thought and energy into those more complex. And so understand that some questions are going to get better engagement, but it doesn't mean you avoid the deep questions and the meaningful questions. But just like in a relationship, you don't go into a party and meet somebody and say, "What's the meaning of life?" You go in and say, "Hey, where are you from? How are you connected to this?" And you get to know them, and then that conversation might lead to a deeper conversation, but you don't start there. So start with some easy to answer questions. So conversation, then celebration. We need to celebrate what's happening in the life of our church. We want to celebrate what's happening, and that's important to our community. So this could be celebrating Easter and Christmas. This could be celebrating who won the Super Bowl. This could be celebrating a local highlight if you're focused on building your online church locally. This could be celebrating baptisms. This could be celebrating, a highlight in your online ministry. And so just celebrate with your online congregation and how people are connecting online. So we've got inspiration, information, conversation, celebration, and then connection. Connection is really connecting. It's getting behind the scenes. It's helping people feel like they're really, they know you, and they're connecting personally with each other. And so, I think pastors often tell me, nobody cares what I ate for breakfast. And the reality is, people probably care more than you think. People want to know their pastor personally. They want to know those ministry leaders personally. They want to know what sports team they're rooting for, what television shows they're watching. And so we can overdo this, and we don't need to have a reality show on our church social networks, but be personal. And make personal connections by being vulnerable yourself and just having some fun with some connections and helping people know things behind the scenes. Or this could even be once a week highlighting a volunteer in your online ministry or in your physical church ministry, or who's behind the camera. I think people want to know those things, and it helps them feel more personally connected to your church. So I hope that formula helps you. I hope some of these tips help you, and I hope you'll lean into social media as you build your online church community. Thanks so much for watching this. I think there's probably some links to my social networks. I'm at Nils Smith across social media, so I would love to connect with you on social media. I spend the most time on Instagram, so if you want to connect there, I would love to connect there, and send me a DM, and I'd love to chat if you have any questions. Thanks so much for being a part of this gathering. Thanks, Steve, for putting it on, and thanks so much for allowing me to be a part of it as well. Have a great day.